Welcome to Live with the League. I'm Emily Kalashewski, Assistant Director for Member Experience and Learning here at the League, and we have got a great show lined up for you today. Here's what we'll be covering. First, a spotlight on our 4 finalists for the 2025 Community Excellence Awards, and then a legislative update on the My Home program and the latest from the state budget process. If you're watching live, drop your questions in the chat or Q&A box. We'll get to as many as we can throughout the show. Let's get started. First up, we're celebrating innovation, creativity, and community leadership through our 2025 Community Excellence Award, or CEA. Each year, Michigan communities are invited to submit standout projects that demonstrate problem solving, collaboration, and forward thinking. This spring and summer, submissions were accepted and reviewed by a panel of judges who selected the 4 finalists we're featuring on the show today. These 4 communities will go on to compete at our annual convention next week in Grand Rapids, where attendees will vote on their favorite project and ultimately decide this year's winner. You can learn more about all of the projects at cea.mml.org, and we also have some great content on our blog with interviews from all of the 14 projects submitted. But let's learn a little bit more about our 4 finalists. Joining us today are some folks representing each of our projects. We've got Rob Splane from Hart, Nate Heffron from Negaunee, Ann Barnette from Milford, and Amanda Wichinski from Roscommon. Thank you all for being with us today. We're going to dive right in. Each of our finalists will have a chance to briefly describe their project, followed by some follow-up questions. So, Rob, I'm going to start with you from Hart. Go ahead and give us a little preview of your project.
Yeah, so thank you for having me on today. Our project, and we're super excited to be able to pitch it at the convention in just a couple of weeks, is called the Hart Project. And it's really, to me, it's such a sweet story because it began in 2021 at the MML convention in Grand Rapids. So in the past 4 years, the convention's moved around, and it's neat because we get to go right back to where this whole project began at the Amway Grand. There was an artist called Bill Segunda that had built a Tin Man, and he was holding a heart right in front of the hotel. And as I was at the convention with my mayor and we were enjoying Art Prize, she said, you know, it makes a lot of sense that we should have a Tin Man in Hart because that's where he would go to find his heart, in Hart, Michigan. So we started a campaign to raise money to build a Tin Man, contacted the artist and was able to work out an arrangement to have him custom make a Tin Man just for us. That will be our very own. And we started fundraising, and almost right away, there was a small group of people that said, are we talking about buying one piece of art, or are we talking about something bigger? And as we started to kind of brainstorm, we said, no, it's not about just Tin Man. It's about culture. It's about creating an identity, bringing something to a rural small town that doesn't have a whole lot of opportunities for arts and entertainment and infusion of culture. And as we started to talk, more and more people would join our group, and it went from 5 to 10 to 50 and 100. And all of a sudden the conversation became, are we talking about one type of art, like sculpture art, or are we talking about painting, or are we talking about music? What is art? And the group has been really receptive to, as new people come in and say, well, quilting is an art, we want to do quilting. And we've seen community members kind of come out of the woodwork to help stimulate this whole campaign. We did put a target of 25 pieces of art by 2025. And I'm happy to say that we're almost there. We've got a few more to add, and we're really hoping that we can get some attention at the convention to maybe find some artists or even other artists from Art Prize to continue to infuse new art and culture in Hart. The last piece that we were able to erect is a huge mural. It sits right downtown on Hart Lake, and we commissioned an artist called Hugo Claudin. He's actually he's from Mexico, but he lives in Grand Rapids. He came up and he did a mural. We had the community input sessions where we invited people to come talk about. We wanted to specifically highlight our migrant worker population. And we heard from so many different community members, and each one of them told a story about memories they had working on farms, working with the community, traveling to Michigan. And we were able to kind of craft this mural to resonate that. And that was a key piece to start identifying the fact that we have a 1/3 Hispanic population, and we want to embrace them because they're a real part of our community. And man, they keep West Michigan agriculture turning. So as we did that, again, we're seeing more and more people join the community. We're seeing people outside. We're seeing people investing in their houses and their businesses more than ever before. And we're really excited. We actually were able to gain some attention, and we'll have a West Shore Community College location in Hart in 2026, which for a small rural town is a big step just to bring a post-secondary education opportunity. So we're really seeing our city change around, and I think it's time for us to be on the stage with our other competitors and really celebrate what we've gotten.
Absolutely. Well, bringing culture into your city instead of going out to find culture is a crucial aspect of building community. I'm really curious to hear more about the impact Heart's Arts and Culture Community Wealth Project, this project has had. How have you seen it sort of shift and transform life in the city?
I would say I came from, I was raised on the east side of the state, and I lived in St.
Hmm.
Clair Shores, Michigan for quite a while. One of my favorite places I've lived. And there was this culture in St. Clair Shores where people from St. Clair Shores are really proud of St. Clair Shores, and they shop in St.
Yeah.
Clair Shores, and they reinvest in St. Clair Shores. And I think we're seeing that shift in Hart, where there's more Hart stickers on everyone's car, and people are wearing Hart pride. And to me, it just, we're really developing a community that we've always loved, but also we're celebrating the fact that it's a great place to be, and we're becoming more Hart proud every day.
I love that. Can't wait to see what you all present at convention next week. Thank you so much.
We're excited. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's shift right over to Negaunee, a place that is near and dear to my heart. I've got relatives there. Nate, tell us a little bit about your project.
Well, good morning from the Upper Peninsula.
Yeah,
Hear me okay?
we can.
Good. Well, our project is really about reinventing our downtown community. The downtown area we feel is the heart of your community. So thank you, Hart, for the playoff there. We are very proud of our project, but before we started this project, which took a couple years to make, and a couple years to have shovels in the ground and to finish it up, the ribbon cutting, we had a pretty sad story. As many towns across America and the Upper Peninsula, Michigan, as we know, a lot of our downtowns were struggling, dying, and Negaunee was one of those. And we have a rich history of mining, and that really is what fed the economy of Negaunee, and that's kind of starting to dissipate. So with that going away, we had to reinvent ourselves. Thing we saw coming into this project was we had to reinvest in ourselves first before we had others invest in their own businesses or bring businesses downtown. I think about it as like a business owner. If I were going to open a business, why would I open it in the worst looking place in the community? And sorry to say, Negaunee was one of the worst looking places in our community. It just wasn't kicking it. We needed help badly. So we worked together as a community with our downtown development authority, revitalizing that, creating a downtown plan, prescribing to the RRC through the Michigan Economic Development Corporation's programs, and really jump-started the downtown area. With all that said, we were very fortunate to be able to take advantage of the first round of RAP grants that came through the state of Michigan during COVID. And we were able to secure $885,000 grant for this project overall. That we coupled that with grant opportunities that we had available to us, which we obtained, funding mechanisms that we had already set up for creating infrastructure improvements in our downtown. Overall, it was a several $1 million project of investment in our downtown community, revitalizing, reinventing it look actually beautiful, making it look loved. And key was making it look loved, making it loved. And with that, we had folks prior to the project, during the project, and after our project was completed, investing in their buildings, investing in their businesses, and starting new businesses at downtown Negaunee.
Well, that's an
Overall,
incredible story. I'm just going to pop in with a quick question if you don't mind. Um, I know we've talked and we've seen so many examples through our Community Excellence Award and other projects, community projects that we highlight, that public and private investment can really go a long way toward expanding downtowns and ensuring continued success within many of our communities. How did you see the public investment boost private investment or vice versa in your specific case in your downtown project?
Well, the biggest thing we did was we took advantage of the social district. We
Mhm,
created that within the scope of our project. So I didn't really cover what the project was per se, but we
mhm,
redid all the sidewalks, the roads, the infrastructure for like lighting, water, some sewage and storm drain. We created those social hubs, which you'll see in the
mm,
project description, which connect directly with the social district. That allowed us to take advantage of that district and its creation. We just didn't see people walking up and down our streets only drinking alcohol. They needed places they could be in together, eat food, have social events. With all this happening now, we're seeing private investment uh, by businesses and building owners in our community. So, for example, we have people now putting some artwork on their building. We have several businesses expanding their business footprint, like a flower shop. They went from a
mm,
small little back store section and they took out a laundromat and they're reinvesting and putting a whole lot of investment into the front part of their shop and have a forward street facing shop now. That's a big deal and several
mhm,
other businesses that have moved to our downtown and currently ones I really can't speak about because I'm not supposed to,
mhm,
are actually looking at buying buildings and starting businesses in our downtown. And I asked these folks, why are you coming here? You could go to Marquette, you could go to other communities in the area that have cheaper buildings. And they say it's because of the business atmosphere. It's because Negaunee is the place to be now because of our streetscape project and everything we were doing in our community to make it business friendly, uh, the different events we're holding, all those type of things. Folks need to have reliability when they're making their investment. Negaunee is a reliable place where they can make that investment.
Well, I love hearing all about that, and I can't wait to see it come to life during your presentation at convention and also visit myself. Thank you so much, Nate. I am going to shift right into Milford. We've got Anne with us. And tell us a little bit about your project.
Good morning.
Morning.
Both of those are such beautiful stories.
I know.
Um,
Let's hear
and
yours.
it's funny, my first sentence is Central Park is the heart of our community. So
Yes,
that's the third heart this morning.
right? It's the theme.
Yes, but Central Park is actually the very center of our downtown. It actually bifurcates the two ends of downtown Milford. And over the years, it had just been disinvested. There had been a lot of small groups that had tried to put little things here and there. There was a volunteer group that would put a basketball court or a tennis court or something. Um, and Central Park had become a place that you just drove by as you were going from one end of town to another. You missed the river, you missed the park, the whole front yard. We used to kind of joke that it was the worst front yard in the entire village. And we had spent, I personally had spent 25 years investing in the streetscape of downtown Milford in the very center, the very heart of our community, was something that you just drove by.
Mhm,
And so our Downtown Development Authority put together a beautiful plan to improve Central Park. And we had gotten to a point where we knew we had something that was going to really celebrate Central Park as the civic center of our community, something that was going to pull both sides of Central Park or of downtown together, something that was going to bridge the gap, but also something that was going to really celebrate the park as something that was a point of pride for the
mm,
community. We
mhm,
got into that and realized that we really only had about half of the funding that we could accomplish it with. And my board said, what about asking the township for the other half of the funding? And I said, there's no way. I mean, we're $1.5 million short. There's just no way that they're gonna come up with that kind of money. I mean, I thought you guys are nuts, like, and we went
Mhm.
to the township, and the township also determined that Central Park was the heart of their community as well. And they partnered with us, and we accomplished this project in about 10 months, which is an unbelievable time frame. But what's happened since then, and I happen to be I grew up here in the village, and what has happened since then is an astonishing dream come true. The park is used probably 10 times more than it ever has been used. There's people of all ages using it now. You weren't able to actually move within the park before. Sidewalks didn't go into the park.
Mm.
People of all ages are able to use the park now. The river was inaccessible before. Now there's a boardwalk along the river where you can, there's an all ages swings that are along the riverside that you can sit and look and just sit and contemplate and look at the view shed of the river. It's we get calls on a daily basis of people that just moved here or people who've lived here their entire lives that uh, comments like we didn't even know that this was here, and it's really taken its place as the heart of the community and where it should have been for the last 50 years. And I've been doing this for 30 years, and
Mhm.
it's something that has completely transformed this town, and we're very, very proud of it. And it's almost inexplicable the way that this has transformed our town. And
Yeah.
very,
I want to chat a little bit more about that. You know, as we talk about community wealth, we know public health is part of that, and it's vital to all of our
yeah,
communities. And one of the things that Milford focused on in expanding or upgrading Central Park was accessibility and diversity and all of those things. So I'm curious, just to give a quick preview to the folks joining us today, what some of those additional enhancements were. I know you mentioned sidewalks, right, being one of them and foundational.
yeah,
What are a few of those mainstay enhancements, and what would you say are their impacts so far, aside from, of course, the park being used 10 times more than
yeah.
it was before?
Well, we installed a barrier-free perimeter walkway all the way around the park. You
Hmm.
weren't able to access the park at all
Hmm.
before. We also we relocated a lot of the sports courts so that people were able to actually use the park as a passive park for picnics and gatherings. The sports courts had kind of taken up the entire Great Lawn so that
Hmm.
people that just wanted to use it as a place of respite were not able to use
Sure.
it before. So that meant it was open for more all ages. So
Hmm.
elderly people were able to use it. People that just had been sort of programmed away from it were able to come back into the park. Um, the playscape was more accessible.
Hmm.
The again, all ages swings. There's just people more of different ages are able to use it that weren't able to use it before. And then the
And it
parking,
probably looks a little bit better too, like you mentioned. It's not the worst front yard anymore.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the secret here for me and as a urban design person is the secret audience also, and we think about this in streetscapes all the time. The secret audience is the 25,000 cars a day that pass by the park. So that
Hmm.
view shed, look, that's at the very center of our community. There's there's a benefit to that as well. That's a
Yeah,
beautiful thing to be driving by. We talk about
absolutely.
scenic roads all the time, and this is just a beautiful thing to drive by every day. And there's a
Yeah,
benefit to that as well.
absolutely. Well, I can't wait to hear more about it and see your presentation coming up at convention. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for
Um,
having us.
all right, we've got one more project to highlight today, and this one is another really unique piece. Amanda Wichinski from Roscommon is with us. Amanda, would you take a moment to describe your project?
Sure. Thank you for having me on. So I'm placed in the Village of Roscommon actually as a community development fellow through CEDAM. And part of the fellowship charter that I was provided was to address public art and Bird City, Michigan as community priorities when I started earlier this year. So I was quickly connected with our conservation partners on Bird City, Michigan to review our application. And we discovered we actually already had the makeup of a Bird City, Michigan. So our DDA jumped on board to pay for our application. The Village Council quickly passed a resolution to get us across the line as the first designated community in the state, which I saw as a big honor to the years of work from our dedicated volunteers and conservation partners, in particular from our Bird City team, Mike Petrucia from our Kirtland's Warbler Festival, which we do every year the first weekend in June, Kelsa Parker Smith from Gehagen Nature Preserve, who's our director there, and Julie Crick, who's a forester at our local MSU Extension office. And Linda Smith from Michigan Audubon also helped us guide us through that process step by step to get our application in and approved. We then went on to launch our, actually in tandem, our public art committee under our DDA, and we developed a public art vision. We launched 2 initiatives. One was a campaign for commissioning the world's largest Kirtland's Warbler sculpture, which is the highlight, and you can see the result of that there.
Love it.
As well as a new DDA mural grant program to add interest to downtown and build on our new social district, the Village Commons. We unveiled that sculpture actually at our annual Kirtland's Warbler Festival in June. And we had record attendance for that festival this year. And then we also co-designed the mural with the community actually, which ended up as a bird-filled Asabo Riverscape, just further building on the Year of the Birds in Roscommon here. And that one was by the stylings of George Eberhardt III out of Grand Rapids. Rob, I would highly recommend him. He's been a fantastic partner for us in art.
Amazing. Well, what a unique designation and a really big designation to celebrate being officially the first bird city in Michigan. And you mentioned the team combined conservation with public art. I'm curious to hear more about that approach and how it's impacted Roscommon.
Yeah. So after that Bird City, Michigan designation, where we collaborated with those conservation partners to get that Bird City team going in their application, we designed our patronicity campaign to crowdfund for the world's largest Kirtland's Warbler sculpture. And we did that through a celebration and series of conservation and bird-themed events. So one of them was a Birds, Bees, Butterflies, Oh My Earth Day event, which was the first of its kind in the area. And we did that partnering with local conservation groups, hosting different education and activity tables, and then local artists donating nature-themed art for silent auction. We also scheduled our campaign in line with the Kirtland's Warbler migration timing to spread awareness about the rare songbird returning to its uniquely situated breeding grounds here in the Jack Pine Forests of northern Lower Michigan. And then the unveiling, as I mentioned, happened at that annual Kirtland's Warbler Festival in the first week of June. And yeah, we've just seen a lot of engagement, that DDA mural grant that we had later that ended up bird-filled as well. We had over 45 individuals that we officially counted and many more that came up to George while he was painting. And that's coming from an 1,000-person village. And so we were pretty proud of that community engagement. People were very excited about that. They got to choose, what was in that mural. It really represented that public art vision that we had formed, which was authentic, well-natured, and hallmark community style. And we really let that be community-led. And we believed in the possibility of, community choosing the art that reflects them. And, we've just heard overwhelmingly positive comments about this, on social media and in person. We just see community pride and strengthening of our identity, which were some things that we had, for instance, a tourism assessment through the MSU extension done a couple years back. And that was one thing that they said, to work on strengthening your identity. And we felt like we made a lot of progress this year with these initiatives and traction. That's just really positive in the community conversations that we're seeing.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait to see this project on the big stage as well. And I'll mention again, if you want to learn more at home, you can go to our website, cea.mml.org, to take a peek at all those projects, or visit our blog that has a little bit about all 14 projects that were submitted this year. And before we say goodbye to our finalists and shift into our legislative update, I'm curious if anybody is really looking forward to anything in particular, has any surprises up their sleeve we should be on the lookout for when it comes to those presentations or those booths at convention. I know it's pretty common that our 4 finalists are really engaged and super competitive because they really want to take home that big trophy. So anybody have anything they want to tease now for a lookout when we're at convention next week?
I would say that we have some really cool Hart swag that we're going to be handing out. We brought enough for everybody and some extra. So we should have some fun giveaways for everybody at the convention. And I'll tell you, after hearing each one of these stories, I think it's going to be a tough competition. I think it's going to make it especially tough on the attendees at the convention to choose a favorite. But I'll tell you, after hearing the other 3 communities' stories, I think I know where we're vacationing next summer.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Anybody else?
We've got a couple exciting things. We're going to have some of our partners at our booth for people to talk to directly about those programs and how they can use them in their community. We do have a appearance of a supersized Kirtland's warbler named Sparky, who's going to pop in from our local Kirtland Community College. You can come check out and take a selfie with him. And we also have an MML passport activity tracker that folks can come participate in. We've got a custom Kirtland's warbler mug from our local Timber and Time business, some bird-friendly sourced early coffee bags, and more. So come check us out.
Can't wait. Nate, what about you? I know, the current CEA winner, the reigning CEA winner, UP, our UP community. I hear that you are determined to keep the CEA Cup in the Upper Peninsula. Anything we should be looking out for next week? Oh, and you're on mute.
That is our goal. All I'll have to say is the UP is full of surprises, so you'll have to wait for our surprise in Grand Rapids.
All right, Nate, we love that tease. And close us out. Anything we should be looking out for your project?
I'm going to follow Nate on that one. So I'll have
All right.
I had to build the park. The office is going to have to do the rest.
Well, we love an element of surprise. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us and talking more about your project. We can't wait to see you next week. It will be certainly a tough competition, but really inspiring projects, of course. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your help, Emily.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good luck, everyone.
Yes, good luck, everyone. Now let's turn to what's happening on the policy front. We're joined today by John Lamacchia from our State and Federal Affairs team. John, let's jump right into it. Let's start with the My Home program. We've made quite a splash over the last few weeks. 2 weeks ago, the league hosted that press conference alongside state legislative leaders, some local government officials, several partners to launch the new campaign, which we know is designed to address Michigan's housing crisis with practical tools and funding. We want to get actual homes built. But for those who were able to join us in the last couple of weeks or hear about this, can you give us a quick refresher on what is included in the My Home program and what local leaders should know about the opportunities it creates?
Yeah, really exciting stuff. Had an opportunity to work with several partners here a couple of weeks ago and really work with the board and come through on what we've been hearing from members across the state about what they're dealing with when it comes to housing. And quite frankly, here at the league, as our members know, and those in the legislature have come to find out, that we are committed to solutions. And so we decided that it was really important for us to be proactive in the space and talk about how we engage in a thoughtful way on real policy that can help make a difference in what we are seeing in the need in terms of housing units across the state of Michigan. In short, really it's a program that's targeted at creating more attainable housing in the state. whether that be through home ownership or rentals, and whether that be through new builds or reconstruction, and do so in a way that the title would suggest with partnership. So
Mhm.
how do we collectively work together with the state, with us as local units of government, our builders, developers, philanthropic groups, nonprofits, community partners, and even as we saw this last week, as we were down in Harper Woods, schools,
Mhm.
as they are turning an old facility that housed an elementary school into dozens and dozens of new housing units. That partnership is so critical to this, but it also requires investment. And that's why we're trying to do this with the state. So there's a financial component to it where we would invest, $160 million annually to help deal with some of the gaps in these projects, to make sure that we can go from concept to completion in a lot of ways, and making
Mhm.
sure that we can get this into the hands of those that really need it. But there's a local component too. We recognize
Right.
at the local level that we have to make changes, and many have, to their zoning ordinances in which to make our communities more housing ready. So for those communities that are doing that and being proactive in that space, will allow them to participate in this state program. And then we'll match those communities with builders and developers from across the state, and really maybe even across the country, as a way to develop what we believe could be as many as 10,000 new units over the next 5 years.
And, for our communities who are thinking, this sounds great, we're on board, absolutely. How can they help us in this effort?
Yeah, so some may have seen just last week, we sent out a email to all of our members with a link where you can actually sign up and showcase your support. Some of you may remember it's a similar effort to what we did around the Revenue Sharing Trust Fund, where you let us know your name, you let us know, what community where you're with, and we'll utilize that in our advocacy efforts. And in this particular case, we even have the ability to add you to our website, and
Mhm.
really identify you and list you as a supporter with others. Since we sent that out late last week, we've had over 100 people sign up and support already. We are on the back end reaching out to a bunch of different of our contacts that we've made over the course of time in the housing space. So we're going to work to get them on board and really show them the value of this proposal. But we also have to recognize that on the back end of this, there have been efforts to preempt local government, and we haven't been
Yeah.
shy about, our opposition to the erosion of local control. It's one of our core principles. It's something the organization was founded on over 126 years ago. But for those that want to push preemption, we need to keep them honest, right?
Mhm.
We need to make sure we ask those questions. How many housing units is preemption going to build? And I think to date, what we've seen is some of the things have been quite misleading. And we need to
Mhm.
make sure that as local leaders in this space, we talk about what we are doing. We recognize the fact that preemption efforts silences the voice of our local residents and their ability to have input into this process, and silences us as local officials in the ability to give our communities context, right? And that context is so critical to what we do, to ensuring that we match and mix multiple priorities that we see. And we really believe that we should allow each of our communities to deal with that based on their unique qualities, and do so in a way that is responsible, which is why we put forward this proposal as a way in which to both incentivize change, but also invest in a way in which we'll actually build new homes.
Absolutely. That nuance is so important. And so, what can members expect to see over the coming weeks or months as we continue down this My Home program campaign?
Yeah, well, nothing is ever easy in the legislature. And I don't say that just as like everybody knows that, but
That's right before we talk about the budget. So,
yeah,
I think it's a great example.
that was sort of my soft lead into the budget, right? But honestly, these things take time, right? One, it requires that we educate our members and others about what's going on, and why this proposal that's based on partnership over preemption is really the right path forward. But it also requires us working with the legislature, working to get bills introduced, which is what we're doing, identifying, co-sponsors that will complement our sponsors and legislative champions we've already identified in this space, and then working towards a positive outcome that actually achieves the goals that people need to see, which is making housing more accessible and more attainable for those that need it. And so sometimes that stuff happens very quickly, right? And sometimes it
Mhm.
happens in waves. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're working to try to take this program, educate people, get them engaged in it, get them to support that, and then find a way to get the legislature to take action on it. So there will be a consistent presence from us,
Yep.
but we will also make sure that when there is time to weigh in on legislation that may preempt local government, that we're ready to do that as well, to inform you and make sure that we can take appropriate action when needed.
Absolutely. So again, we've got more information in the chat. We've got links to more info on the My Home program. And if you're interested in putting your name in to show support, we've got that in there too. I'll plug, if you're an elected official and you're looking for advocacy credits for our Elected Officials Academy, that's also worth advocacy credits. So if you're looking for some of those, voicing your support, we'll make sure we keep track of that. So we talked a little bit about things sort of coming in fits and starts. And we're sort of in a place where the dust is finally settling from the House GOP budget a couple weeks ago, which made substantive cuts to nearly all state departments, many programs. John, walk us through, the update on the state budget process. How did the House GOP budget come about? And what can we expect next?
Well, so I think right now it's what, September 8th.
Yeah.
According to our constitution, we have 22 days left in which to pass a budget. That
Yeah.
is exceptionally tight time frame. And honestly, budgets are political, right? As much as
Yeah.
they are policy oriented, they are political as well. And we try honestly not to weigh into those politics a whole heck of a lot. We have to
Sure.
deal with them. We have to understand that they're out there. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're in a position now where the governor has expressed her budget, the Senate has expressed theirs, and the House has expressed theirs. And as you look at those things, there are vast differences.
Yeah.
Some of which we are very engaged in on, and some of which we know could have downstream effects on our communities. But it's really a mixed bag for us. I think that might have even been my title or my working title on the blog at one point
Yeah.
before I cut that out. Because we will see in let's say the House, or excuse me, in the Senate and the governor's budget, a real commitment to revenue sharing. On the House side, we actually see a reduction in revenue sharing, but we see billions of dollars in road funding. We see new money for public safety, and so as we try to weigh through these things, first and foremost, what I would tell our members is a lot of people want to put this in a position as if one budget is or isn't real. I will tell you right now, it is all very real. And when you come down to the last 22 days, it just makes it that much more real. So we have to take these reductions in statutory revenue sharing very serious. We also have to take very serious our commitment to trying to get more road funding into the mix, and how that interacts with the communities based on local roads, transit, mobility options. All those things are very, very important. And then public safety gets thrown into the mix in the middle of this, which we know is a huge driver in our local budgets and a need. And so how do we actually, over the next 22 days, come to a compromise on these things? I would encourage all of our members to make sure that they reach out to their legislators. And as you see kind of in the blog here, it's yes on roads, yes on public safety, yes on revenue sharing, right? Those things shouldn't happen at the expense of one another. And so
Yeah, I think that's where I want to just dig in for a second. I know we had heard from a member about that, we've got this proposed cut to revenue sharing paired with a significant increase in road funding from the House budget, right? On the surface, that might sound like a win and may have sounded like a win to that member when they were coming to us with this question. But can you explain again, just to reiterate, why communities should be concerned about that trade-off?
Well, and I don't want to explain it as a loss either, right? Right
Yeah.
now, it's part of the process. And sometimes that's the hardest thing for people to understand, that they are still just proposals. That
Right.
being said, right?
And they're all different proposals. Let's be clear.
All different proposals. That being
Yes.
said, if I focus on the House budget proposal just for a second, right?
Right.
There is a $3 billion component of that is for roads. Good for us. On the local side for cities and villages, it's about $1 billion. That is good news, right? In terms of the overall ability to get to a finalized road deal. Let's set that aside for half a second though.
Right.
You get into two other pieces that has the public safety funding and then has revenue sharing, right? We have to remember revenue sharing has two parts. constitutional and statutory. We'll focus on that statutory piece for a second. When we look at those two things side by side, it is almost a one-for-one trade. And so as a way in which to fund public safety, you're doing so at the expense of really shifting resources out of statutory revenue sharing. So you take a flexible dollar and you trade it for an encumbered resource. And so while we believe and we know we have to invest in our public safety efforts, we have to invest in roads, just by shifting some of those dollars, we think we can do both, right? We don't have to shift those dollars. We can invest in revenue sharing, we can invest in public safety, we can invest in roads, because we've all identified those as priorities. Now,
Absolutely.
how that works in the greater budget, right? When you're dealing with 80+ billion, our goal and our objective is to make sure our voice is heard. So a $40 million component, which is really the loss to cities, villages, and townships on statutory revenue sharing, doesn't get lost in the conversation in the last 3 weeks. So us as local units of government, as leaders at the local level, reach out, talk to your legislator, make sure they know we're yes on roads, yes on public safety, yes on statutory revenue sharing, no on cuts to those things.
Absolutely. Thanks, John. So as we're looking at the next, what we say, 22 days, what can we expect to see?
Well, I think one you can expect to see us probably pretty active, especially as we get towards the end. Right now it's all about information gathering so we can best inform our members how they can effectively engage. I think that the truth of the matter is, and we often talk about this as not being a good thing, but it is sometimes how it happens. A lot of these decisions are going to be made behind closed doors right now.
Yeah.
Part of that is because of the timing that's left. Part of that's because there are principals that need to negotiate these things and actually sit down in a room together. We're hopeful, and they have shown signs of getting together more frequently, that they will continue to do that. But if I were to look for signs that would show we're having breakthroughs, I would look for potential agreements on things like school aid, because that's still a major topic, especially as students are now back in the classroom, and we think about what that means as they hit their October 1 deadline for the budget, or September 30, October 1 being the first day. I would look at roads as potentially something that we could see if there's a breakthrough on that. And then other things could start to fall in line. And so we're looking for little pieces, little nuggets that are out there that people are talking about. But at the end of the day, the best thing we can do is stay consistent in our messaging about what we want to see, so it doesn't get lost in the chaos of what's about to take place in the next 3 weeks. And I don't say that as a bad thing. I think the very simple matter of all the things that have to happen behind the scenes that we don't talk about, drafting the bills, proofing them, getting them on the board for the vote, and ultimately in a version that can make its way to the governor's desk for signature, takes time. And we're running that.
Yeah. So again, while we might not know what's happening behind closed doors, we can control what we can control, which is reaching out to our legislators to tell them we are yes on roads, we're yes on revenue sharing, we're yes on all of these things, and making sure our voice continues to be heard. Anything else you'd recommend our members follow up on or stay abreast of as we're looking at the next couple of weeks?
Well, I think one, obviously, Emily said it, on the budget. We got to stay vigilant there. And then, on the housing piece, as you saw, we've put the link in here to support that, share that, right? I mean, we don't know all of the local groups that you work with, your nonprofits that you engage with that care about this, that work in partnership with you to bring housing projects together, your local developer or builder that may be interested in this, because, the truth is about that proposal, it's not self-serving, right? And the collective resource that we're proposing within this, very little of it actually goes to the municipal entity itself. This is really about getting resources in the hands of builders and developers so they can get projects done on the ground and into people's hands that need it from that attainability standpoint. So help us build that network, help us spread, the word on this. We got to do a couple things at once here, and time is of the essence. But we got to make sure we continue to talk about the good work that local government does, the positives that come out of being able to have local leaders represent and listen to their residents on a regular basis and respond accordingly. And the more we do that, the better off we'll be.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, John. All right, before we wrap up, a few quick reminders for everyone. Convention registration closes today at 5 p.m. The League's 2025 convention is happening September 17th through 19th in Grand Rapids, and you don't want to miss it. Of course, you saw those 4 projects. There's a lot more that's on the agenda. Head to mml.org/convention to get signed up if you haven't already. We'll post the links to that in the chat. In addition to that, we've got a free housing webinar coming up on Thursday, September 25th at noon. That's with one of our partners, Allen Edwin Homes. We're really excited to share practical tips on becoming a developer-ready community, building a capital stack, and what it all looks like in action. You can register now. The link is in the chat and video description. That's free. Go ahead and join us. Another reminder, our new online learning platform is live and ready for you. Courses are available on demand anytime you need them. Topics include local government finance, ethics, lobbying, and more, all taught by Michigan municipal experts. You can find that all on the League portal. And finally, our next episode of Live with the League airs Monday, September 22nd. We'll bring you the latest policy updates, maybe some information on the budget as we reach that final deadline. We hope to see you then. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Live at the League. Have a great week.